In 2026, we trade the complex net of welfare for a solid, universal floor.
Okay, let's start with a big question. What if the best solution to poverty was simply to give people money? Yeah, no strings attached. I know, it sounds pretty radical, right? But this isn't just a thought experiment anymore. It's an idea that's actually moving from theory to reality in communities all over the world. And today, we're going to dive deep into it. Universal basic income. And really, everything we're going to talk about centers on this one single question. It's a question that honestly challenges some of our most basic ideas about work, about welfare, and what it even takes for people to, thrive. Could it be that a direct, regular cash payment is the key to a more stable, more prosperous future for everyone? Look, there's a ton of debate out there, right? Lots of opinions. So to move past all that noise, we're bringing you a special report that digs into the hard evidence. We're going to look at what actually happens when this idea is put into practice. We're talking real-world data from experiments happening all around the globe. Okay, so first, it really helps to see what we're comparing here. On one hand, you've got traditional welfare systems. Think of it like a maze, a really complex web of rules, tons of paperwork, and specific conditions that honestly can sometimes trap people instead of helping them. But then on the other hand, you have the radical simplicity of basic income, just a direct payment, a stable financial floor to stand on. So you might be asking, why is everyone talking about this now? Well, there are two huge forces really pushing this conversation forward. First, rising inequality. And second, the threat, the very real threat, of jobs disappearing because of automation. It's kind of wild when you think about it. Some of the biggest names in tech, the very people creating this automated future, are actually the ones saying, hey, maybe UBI is the answer. Now, let's zoom in on a really critical flaw in a lot of current welfare systems. It's something called the benefits cliff. Just imagine this. A single parent works hard, gets a small pay raise. Good news, right? But maybe that extra $50 a week is just enough to push them over some income limit, and suddenly they lose thousands of dollars in housing or food assistance. That raise, the thing that was supposed to help, has actually made them worse off. It's a terrible trap. And this is what that cliff actually looks like. You can see it right here. A household's income goes up just a tiny bit, and then bam, their total resources can just plummet. It's a system that ends up punishing people for getting ahead, for working more. And this is one of the biggest problems that basic income is designed to solve. But like I said, this isn't just a debate on paper anymore. All around the world, communities are actually testing out a different way. So let's get to our field reports. We're going to take you on a global tour, and our first stop is in South America. All right, our first report comes from the coastal city of Maraca, Brazil. Now, this place is interesting. It's funded by offshore oil money, and it's home to one of the most ambitious basic income programs you'll find anywhere. And it has this really unique twist. The money isn't just regular cash. It's paid out in a local-only digital currency called the Mumbuca. And for the folks living there, this isn't just some abstract policy. It has a real, tangible impact. As one resident put it, that Mumbuca card brings a sense of reassurance. It's a baseline of stability. Money they know will be there so they can actually plan for the future. It's a safety net they can truly count on. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. One of the biggest criticisms you always hear is that a basic income will just make people stop working. But in Maraca, researchers found the complete opposite. Formal employment didn't go down, it went up by a staggering 20% compared to similar cities without the program. So what on earth is going on here? Well, researchers broke it down into three key reasons. First, because that Mumbuca currency could only be spent in Maraca, it created this huge boom for local businesses. Second, the extra income helped people cover costs that were keeping them from working, things like bus fare or childcare. And finally, that local currency created a powerful multiplier effect. It just kept circulating right there in the city, boosting the whole local economy. All right, for our next report, we're heading over to Kenya. This is a big one. It's the site of the largest and longest-running study of UBI that's ever been done. It's run by a nonprofit called Give Directly, and this massive experiment is designed to answer some of the toughest questions we have about basic income. And at the very heart of this huge study is that one question that always comes up, the one we just talked about. Does it just make people lazy? Does it discourage work? I mean, it's a question that really gets to the core of what we believe about human nature and what motivates us. Well, the data coming out of Kenya is giving us a pretty clear and compelling answer. No, that common fear, the idea that people would just stop working, it just didn't happen. In fact, it was the opposite. A lot of people use that financial stability to invest in their own futures, starting a small business, buying livestock, fixing up their homes. It seems like instead of creating dependency, it actually sparked entrepreneurship. The experiment also uncovered something else that's absolutely crucial. How you give people the money really matters. A steady, long-term payment, a little bit every month, tended to encourage saving and long-term planning. But giving them a single big lump sum, that empowered people to make huge, life-changing investments right away. And for anyone thinking about policy, that's a really important distinction. Okay, so from the villages of Kenya, our reporting now takes us to Finland. This was a landmark study. It was the first ever nationwide randomized controlled trial of basic income. The setup was simple. For 2 years, 2,000 unemployed Finns got a monthly payment, no questions asked. So what happened? Well, the impact on employment was pretty modest, but the effect it had on people's well-being, that was profound. The data showed a huge, statistically significant boost in basically all the things that make for a happy and healthy life. Let's break that down a bit. People reported being more satisfied with their lives and having better mental and physical health. But maybe the most incredible finding was about trust. People who got the basic income showed higher trust in other people, in politicians, and in public institutions. In a world that feels so divided right now, that is a really powerful result. It suggests a basic income might even help heal some of those divisions. Okay, for our final field report, we're off to Wales in the UK. And they're trying something a little different here. This isn't a universal basic income for everyone. Instead, it's a guaranteed basic income, or GBI, and it's targeted at a very specific and very vulnerable group of people. So this program is designed as a lifeline for young people who are leaving the foster care system. I mean, this is a group that faces just enormous challenges transitioning into adulthood. And the early results look really promising. We're seeing better mental health and more people able to go after an education. But to be fair, this experiment also shows that the debate is far from over. Some professionals are worried that this kind of payment might discourage them from finding a job. It's just a reminder that this is complex and there are no simple answers. Okay, so we've looked at targeted programs, we've seen citywide experiments, and even national trials. So what's next? What's the next big step in this whole basic income story? Well, for the answer to that, the entire world is looking to a small island nation in the Pacific, the Marshall Islands. And this timeline really tells the story. You can see a clear trend. Over just the last decade or so, these experiments have gotten bigger and more ambitious. They've gone from small pilots to programs covering entire cities. And now, the Marshall Islands is about to take the biggest leap yet. Their program is called INRA, and this is the key thing. It's not another pilot. It's not a trial. It's the world's first permanent, countrywide universal basic income. It's being paid for by a sovereign wealth fund, and it'll deliver regular payments to every single citizen, using everything from old-school checks to cutting-edge blockchain technology. So from the streets of Brazil to the villages of Kenya, from Finland to the Pacific Islands, the world is gathering real, hard data on what might be one of the most transformative ideas of our time. As the Marshall Islands begins this absolutely historic journey, the question really isn't if a basic income is possible anymore. The real question is, what kind of society do we want to build with it? And believe me, the whole world is watching to see what lessons we learn next.
Decoupling survival from labor isn't just a policy. It is the next step for humanity.